Episode 27. I'm your host, as usual, Jared Thomas, Senior Account Executive at iPullRank. Today, we have a special guest joining us today. And before I go into the introductions and we go into the goal of the podcast today, I just want to, say rest in peace to Hamlet Batista. The SEO community lost one of our best and brightest. I've had the opportunity to meet, Hamlet many times, and unfortunately, we lost him yesterday. And I just want to dedicate this episode to his family, his loved ones, himself, and rest in peace, brother. So, pleasure meeting you. But and plus, if you want to support, please go to RankSense, look at his product, his tool, his company. That'd be a big way to support. But today, man, I've got a special guest. It's an honor to have you here. So as you guys all know, the restaurant industry has been severely impacted by COVID, and this gentleman created a platform that's taking aim at Grubhub and other third-party delivery companies with their high commission fees. So essentially, the site connects restaurants with local consumers and have them opt into promotional details via text and emails, and allows restaurants to connect directly with new consumers. So I want to introduce our special guest, co-founder, CEO of Spread, Andrew Wang. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
No, thank you, man. Thank you. And for everybody watching at home, I before we go into the story, I think it's a cool story to tell. Like, me and Andrew actually connected. He actually emailed me, kind of giving more, notoriety about the brand, saying, hey, check out my new site. And then once I saw the site and saw the business, I was just like, immediately, Andrew, can we have you on Rankable immediately? And, and he was gracious enough to join us. So it's a pleasure to have you. And I'm excited to learn about the brand. And let's just start at the top, man. I would love to start at the beginning. And, if you could tell us a little bit more about your background and really what sparked the vision for Spread.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So prior to starting Spread, I was actually at Groupon. I was in their New York office. I joined through an acquisition. They bought this startup called Savor that did restaurant reservations.
Yeah, I remember that.
And we were tasked with rolling out what was at the time called Groupon Reserve. It was reservations with discounts based on what time you booked. But eventually our team kind of got rolled into building marketing products for the general restaurant space. So we had the reservation product, we had a kind of higher end Groupon offers product. And then the last thing we were tasked with building was Groupon To Go, which was their take on delivery and takeout. And it was really cool. We got a chance to kind of really dive deep into the space, look at what other people were doing. We were obviously rolling it out in Chicago at the time. But the thing that stood out most to me, at least when we were doing the research, was all of these food delivery companies starting way back in, I think Seamless. There's a company before this called Campus Foods, like 1998 was the first to kind of do online ordering, all at the same business model, which is we're going to take a commission on every order we pass to you. And when Groupon launched it, I was kind of excited to, hopefully see them take a different approach, but same approach. We're going to take a commission on every order we pass through. And the idea was, there has to be one company that at least tries a different business model approach to how food, delivery works. And, when we were talking with restaurants like Groupon, they already back then there was, these complaints of these commissions, right? But for like the general population, it wasn't, you didn't really hear about it much, but it was always in the background. Restaurants like complaining about commissions. Finally, pandemic hits. Now a lot more people know about it, right? There's a lot more articles, about kind of, how the business of, when you really a couple clicks on your app, place an order, what actually happens in the background. And that was kind of our goal with Spread. Can we build a food delivery marketplace and business around, commission free?
No, that's amazing, man. So I'm curious, like, was this something that was, so obviously the idea was, you came up with the idea pre-pandemic and it was just great timing from, a business perspective, but what is step one when developing a platform like Spread, right? Do you worry about the tech first? Do you worry about what is the process?
Yeah. So it's actually almost too hard to answer. There's so many things that go into it. I think, it obviously starts with the idea and starts with just a little bit of like market validation. It could be as simple as talking to a couple of friends. We put a landing page out just to see if people would sign up. There's no product. But, ultimately, when we decided, hey, to do it properly, I found my co-founder, who is a developer, so on the technical end. So we're actually able to, code the website, bring it to life. And then with a marketplace business, it's always, do you get the supply first or the demand first? Usually it's a little bit of both, and then you kind of like seesaw back and forth. For us, and for these food delivery businesses, it's usually the supply first. You get a handful of restaurants, you launch it, you get a couple customers. As you get more customers, it's easier to sell to restaurants, and that's kind of the approach we've taken.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. And actually is a good segue to the next question, because, of course, there's challenges starting any business, but like in your specific scenario, right, there's a need to increase awareness, not only restaurant owners, but also drive new consumers to utilize the app and make the purchases, right? So which one would you say is more difficult to grow? Would it be, building awareness to restaurant owners or consumers? And then what has been the most effective method of use to scale?
So I would say traditionally for what people kind of call like SMB sales, like selling to small, medium-sized businesses, that's the hardest part, because people haven't really figured out a way to scale it necessarily, because at the end of the day, you need to like call someone or email them and get them on the phone, give them a pitch, and close it. One cool thing, so I would say that has been the most challenging, even though our product is actually pretty easy to sell. You still have to put in the work to like get that restaurant all set up. But the cool thing about today versus when we were building this at Groupon is there are companies now, and we consider them in like channel partnerships that allow us to scale the number of restaurants on our site a lot faster and without really a sales team. So there's companies like Ordermark or Checkmate or Chowly. These are companies that make money by integrating with all of these restaurant point of sales and take like a Grubhub order and put it into one tablet. By integrating into those guys, all of their restaurants that already use them now can be onboarded actually pretty quickly. So that's something that we're leaning into a lot more. And on the user end, we've set up the company so that it's really easy to grow by word of mouth, right? The brand, the mission, we're definitely leaning into that. But early days for any business, it is a lot of just like hustle, right? You asked which channel actually works pretty well for us right now, just to get that, the ball rolling. And one of them is the cold email. How we got introduced. We're literally cold emailing local office employees. And it's actually one of our better channels in terms of like cost and like return on investment.
Totally. That's a great point, actually. So like for me personally, as a salesperson, like I've seen that channel kind of declining, because we use like Zoom Info and other stuff to prospect, and we put our list and we go by industry and all that good stuff. But then what I've been seeing is a lot of bounce backs from emails, right? People are no longer at the company, they're moving here. So have you seen that on your end too? It has been like a high bounce rate, or?
Yeah, so it's both like an art and a science, the cold emailing part. Obviously, trying to get clean email lists is one part of it, but the biggest part I think is the message you send in the email.
Totally.
We still once in a while get some pretty upset people, but like overwhelmingly, if people read what's in our email, like, oh, this is a pretty cool cold email. We do a weird thing where most cold email that you probably receive is B2B cold email, right? Trying to sell like some kind of service. We're actually doing B2C cold email. We're not emailing to sell some service to the company, but we're just we're using the company email as a way to verify, hey, they're probably in New York area, which is our first market, which is like kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. And have you seen it like? Have you seen the performance kind of skew a little bit now that most people are working from home? Has it increased? Like, I'm just curious.
Yeah. No, that's a great question. So we get a lot of responses like that are like, love this mission. I'm outside of the city right now, but let me pass it to these two friends who I know still are in the city. Gosh. But one thing is probably for at least the next couple of months, people are still outside the city. In the suburbs, wherever it may be. People will return, and when they do return, it'll work even better. Targeting companies that are based in your city. Yeah.
Totally. And now you mentioned, a couple of minutes ago that setting up, new restaurants and how there's so many different points of, like, if I'm a business owner, I can imagine there's a lot of confusion, right? Like, so I've got a tool to help me with the point of sale and integration and, my systems and all, what have you, then my digital marketing, my website, things like that. Like, what is the process like to set up? If I'm a restaurant in New York City, how would I set up with Spread?
Yeah, so the answer is there are a lot of different ways that the restaurant set up. The most ideal one is if we are integrated into your point of sale, like they work with like an Order Mark or a Chowly, then it's actually really simple. The order comes in, it goes right into your point of sale, and generally a restaurant prints a ticket and then they execute the order.
Oh, that's amazing.
But that's still pretty low penetration right now. Most restaurants aren't set up with those type of things. So the classic ways they receive it are either by email, by a tablet, like literally the order comes through. You've probably seen it at a restaurant, or honestly, it's kind of funny when we, spend so much time in technology. But one of the channels that probably works the most reliably is actually just fax, because you can't miss this thing being printed in front of you, and then you can pass it to the kitchen actually pretty easily. So some restaurants still use fax to receive orders.
Totally. And I'm curious too, like because we're marketers, I think of GA and all of these different, like how do I validate it? Like, do they have what does their reporting look like? So I can see like, hey, I've gotten 40 sales from Grubhub, I've got 30 from Seamless, I've got 50 from Spread. Do they have something like that or a mechanism like that to segment the sales and see where they should be investing?
Yeah, so some of the point of sales have much better kind of reporting and analytics, but the real question is whether the restaurant owners even know it or have time. And for the most part, your mom and pop restaurant, they're not downloading anything, right? They're not really looking at that type of data. As you go up like a multi-location restaurant, there's dedicated teams to look at that. But what we definitely try to eventually, where we envision restaurants approaching marketing is that even a small mom and pop restaurant will be able to kind of like take care of some of that work for them in terms of analyzing kind of the data behind their orders.
Yeah, absolutely. So I could imagine, like, I would recommend, so if there's any small business owner or mom and pop shop out there, right? I think the biggest thing, even if you've been in business for 20 years, right? It is 2021. Everything is migrating to a digital platform. But I think the biggest important thing you should be thinking of is, what do I know about my customer? Right? How do I collect more information about my customer, right? You may have the person who's been coming to you for 20 years, and that's John, he sits at this booth and does that, and that makes the experience much better for John. But how do you scale that across new consumers, right? People who've come in once in a while, right? So try to think of new creative ways to do that, because like that reporting is so crucial, because why would you spend 25, 30, 35% of your sale to something that may not be generating a majority of it, right? Where as opposed to knowing your channels and knowing what's really working for you, especially in today's market, every dollar counts. All revenue matters, right? Especially when you only have one stream of it right now, with only being outdoor orders or online ordering. It's so tough. So try to think that in mind once things do open up. Like, what are some things you could do to create or know more, collect more data about your users, right? Whether it be a coupon code, whether it be have them fill out a survey, something, right? But just use that to your advantage and create a better experience. And the best experience, that's going to get the person to come back. Yeah. So now I'm curious, what is the biggest challenge though? Like, because it's a great message, right? It's a great product, but how do you kind of break down the consumer loyalty of people who've been going to Seamless and Grubhub and all these things for so many years? Like, what is the biggest challenge there?
So the pitch on the consumer end at the beginning is pretty straightforward. The idea is, by cutting out this, 30% commission in the middle, the restaurant actually is happy to pass a little bit on to the customer. So if you go to the site, a lot of restaurants lead with offers. And another thing that we will try to make more clear is that, often, like I'd say 50% of the menus, if you're ordering on like a Grubhub or an Uber Eats, is actually just marked up already from, if you went to the restaurant and called them directly. And that's the restaurants passing some of those fees on the consumers, but consumers don't really realize that it's being passed on to them in terms of higher prices. But for sure, on the consumer end, that's like one of the lead pitches. It's like, you're going to get a better offer, right? We don't think this is the perfect analogy, but like any good direct to the consumer brand, right? Like Casper mattresses or Warby Parker glasses. The pitch is, hey, by cutting out these middlemen, you're actually getting a much cheaper price. And that's the same thing here. By cutting out the middleman, consumers will ultimately benefit. But the second thing is, honestly, we've gotten so many customers that have asked us, can I just donate this offer back to the restaurant? I'm actually happy to use the service solely because it doesn't help like a Grubhub take, from the restaurant. So those two factors are kind of what we lean into on the customer end. But it's still super early. So I don't think people realize how hard it is to acquire customers, right?
It's not extremely hard. That's why marketing is.
You see some big companies, and they have huge teams dedicated to getting the flywheel going. It just becomes easier as you obviously gain a little bit of scale. But early on, it's every customer that you're trying to even get just to sign up, it's not as easy as it seems, right? Like even something that's like, hey, why wouldn't you sign up for supporting restaurants offers and things like that?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then like from a consumer perspective, like what can they do? I know you said like restaurants basically can give direct offers and coupon codes, things like that to save money, right? But what can you do as a customer? If I sign up to Spread right now, what can I do to like customize my experience? Is there a way to limit how many promotions and things I receive in a week?
Yeah, so right now we are still playing with a bunch of stuff. So right now our marketplace is where we are kind of focusing most of our effort in terms of like improving it. But like a classic marketplace, consumers can basically browse, right? They can put in all these different filters, location, cuisines, dietary, and find restaurants they like. We still do basically promotions by email, by text. We limit them on purpose right now. So at most, you'll get one text, one email from us per week. But eventually, as we build out the platform, for sure, the customer can choose like, hey, I actually want 3 texts per week, and I like these cuisines. And these are the things I want, and we're happy to basically ingest that data, right? And if a customer is happy to give us preferences, we're happy to take that in and put that into the product for them.
That makes sense, and I'm assuming it's like a rotation, right? You wouldn't be sending like say if I like barbecue food, like one week you might send me to the Dallas BBQs, and the next week you'll send me to another spot. Like, does that how it work? Does it rotate in a manner?
That's the goal. Yeah, that's the goal.
Okay, got it. That makes complete sense. And then, especially with COVID going on, like what was the experience like? I know it's an early brand, but what was the brand? What did the brand look like pre-COVID? And then what do you think the restaurant industry is going to look like post-vaccination, and what kind of impact will it have on Spread?
Yeah, so we were still in the building phase when it hit. So we were kind of heads down, like coding and adding restaurants. Obviously, on the restaurant end, the tough part was, signing up for another service is probably the last thing on your mind when you're just trying to figure out, can I serve indoors, can I serve outdoors? So there's definitely, it's tough on that end. But at the same time, the takeout as a business, so many restaurants didn't really need a takeout business, right? If you had a strong sit-down business, but when the pandemic hits, they figure, we have to learn how to do this business, and even after indoor dining comes back, they'll have this muscle, right? Which is, how do I operate a delivery and takeout business that they're not going to just throw away, right? Once they've done the hard work of figuring out how it works, that's a new revenue stream, so they'll keep it. In terms of where we see the restaurant industry after vaccinations, we hope it returns right back to normal. I think there's a good chance that it actually, becomes even better. People are kind of itching to go eat out at restaurants. But I think there are, this psychological hurdle of, people feeling comfortable eating at restaurants, as well as, no one knows what the kind of like state and city laws will be, as they decide how, when we should open and when we shouldn't.
Yeah. I totally agree, man. Once we get to that herd immunization, it's going to be, I know that it's going to explode, because I'm itching to go get a burger and a steak. Like, I'm going to go here and have to do it comfortably. That would be amazing. But like this, like especially like for COVID, like I think the silver lining of the whole pandemic, especially for the restaurant industry, is that it basically accelerated the need for digital. I think that was one industry, right? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, I was gonna say one industry like that was just lagging behind in terms of that, right? If I, like you said, if I had a strong sit down game, I just put it to the back burner. Like when people come to me like, hey, I need this new service or this new thing, I don't really need you because this is generating 80% of my business or 70, 65, whatever the case may be, right? Now it's like, oh no. And the ones that adapted, really well are always going to have that. It's always going to help the business. So that's the silver lining to it, but it's just messed up of, I really don't like the laws and stuff like that, to be honest with you. I don't like that. Like you have to close the restaurant at 10 o'clock. Like that law in New York City, I just think is so ridiculous because COVID's still out here at 8 o'clock. How do you chill? Walmart, right? Anytime I want to go get some milk. It just, I just feels bad if, for people, business owners who invested all of their earnings, their life savings into an idea, became successful, and then that could be jeopardized for something outside of their control.
Yeah, it's tough business.
Yeah, really, really tough, man. Really tough. But I would like to, hear from anybody in the crowd, anybody who's watching. If you guys have a question, please fill the chat in. I know we're in StreamYard. This is a new platform for us, so we're all getting used to it. But if not, we'd love to know, do a speed round. But like, what if you had to choose a spokesperson for your brand, right? Like, who would you pick and why? If you had one influencer that you could pick, regardless of budget, who would that be?
Regardless of budget, one person that I've always admired, and in the restaurant space for us would be Danny Meyer, like Union Square Hospitality. I went to school in New York City, and got to eat at a bunch of his restaurants, like even Shake Shack when it was just the one location. Yeah. And he has this really interesting philosophy of a restaurant business. Yes, you have the food. Yes, you have like the business behind it, but it's really the hospitality industry
experience.
And it's still early days, but we tried to add that philosophy to when we build it, because when you're in person, it's really easy to show hospitality in person, right? As a restaurant, but online it's actually a lot tougher. Like how do you bring hospitality to an online ordering experience? And that's something we think about a lot. But I think Danny Meyer is probably like the best. One of the most respected figures in the restaurant space for what he's been able to do and how he runs a restaurant business, which is ultimately great hospitality.
Yeah, and to piggyback off what you just said, I think how you do that digitally, I think it should be creating a frictionless sale. I think how do we make a seamless transaction? Like how do we get the consumers what they want when they want it? How do we have content geared up in a way that answers their questions without having to get Jared on the line or something like that? You know what I mean? Or whatever the case may be. I think that's really how you do it. Hospitality is knowing your audience, and which goes back to our earlier point, make sure you collect those data points and incorporate that. Make messaging personalized. People want to be sold, not sold to, but it's like they want everything just easy and kind of handed to us. I see the ad. Oh damn! I just ate at Dallas BBQs yesterday. And let me order. Oh, yep, I'm hungry right now, and whatever the case may be. So I think you hit the nail on the head. What's your favorite New York City restaurant?
Oh man, there's so many, and when people ask me this, it's tough. Usually when I say how many dollar signs right on Yelp, like because there's like categories, but one of my absolute favorites is this kind of hole in the wall Japanese restaurant in the East Village called Ichibante. And they do Japanese comfort food, but they have this really cool vibe. At one point it was basically just a bar and a couple of seats, but they play like reggae music. And it's a really interesting clash of like Japanese and like reggae music, but the food is like so good. It's like Japanese comfort food. So it's not like sushi and stuff like that. It's like they have like ramens, but the thing that we always get is this like chicken naan buns, like fried chicken with like this sauce on top. That's like really, really good.
Oh man, now because I didn't eat lunch yet, so that sounded amazing. I actually had it's funny you said that because I actually had a spot that I used to love. They actually closed down, unfortunately, but it was on 37th Street called Ginger's, a very similar place. You might have been there, but it was like a very small, kind of looks like a hole in a wall. The food was amazing, the vibe was amazing. And they had these Long Island iced teas for like $3. You get 3 of those. You're on the train wobbly, and it was amazing. Shout out to Ginger's. And I would say, what's my favorite restaurant? Ooh, that's a tough one, man. Yeah, I don't even know. That's a tough one. I've got so many, man. But and I'm curious too. Like, what's the best business advice you've ever received? And why? Like, what was something that you've implemented that was like somebody told you and it just sparked the light bulb?
One that I got that I liked a lot, that I think about a lot, was just for an early stage, any type of early stage business. I think it's easy to get like discouraged because it seems like the world like there's so many things to do and you're like a team of two. But one of our early investors told us that in the business world, there's few things that come as close to like creating art than trying to build a seed stage company. It's one of the coolest things that you can do because, at a big company, yes, you can make changes, you can do stuff, but it moves a lot slower, right? But like building a seed stage company, you can actually, decide how you exactly want to craft it. And just knowing that in the background, okay, at the end of the day, at least you get to do this cool thing, and it definitely helps, in terms of kind of motivation to just like keep going.
Yeah, and I'm curious too. What's the VC process look like? Right, like I would be. I'm a seller, so I'm kind of comfortable with that. But I would be so mad, if somebody was to say no or something like that and be discouraged, right? So how do you deal with that? I'm not sure if that's happened in your case, but I'm pretty sure you're pitching to multiple, VCs and to get the funding, and somebody's probably said, "Hey, I get it, but maybe not right now," or whatever. Like, how do you keep focused, man?
Yeah, no, I mean, we literally kicked off fundraising for our seed round on Monday. So this week, it's just been
cool.
Most of my days have been just like back-to-back meetings, and it's like my wife can probably tell you, like all it takes is one, and not even a bad meeting, but one comment here and there, because the company's kind of like your baby, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And one comment here and there, and you could just become so drained, right, and demoralized. But the opposite can happen too, right? You have a meeting where it seems like it's clicking, they're asking really great questions, it seems like they get it, and like finish it, you just feel like super energized. Yeah, it's like it's crazy swings from one meeting to the other. But yeah,
I could imagine, man. That's amazing, man. And then another thing too, because I'll be honest with you, like I'm kind of struggling with it too, because obviously I do sales. We do the podcast, we do a lot of things, outside of the regular 9 to 5. I'm constantly creating content, things like that. So how do you prioritize certain items, and how do you manage your time? What advice would you give for that?
That I think is probably like the most important thing. And I don't have a great answer. I have a whiteboard here that every day I try to reprioritize stuff. But honestly, I think if you can put in a system to think about what will have the most impact on your business, like today or this week or this month, and the better you can prioritize it will be, like the better your company is run, because ultimately you only have like a finite amount of like hours in a day to do something. And if you're focusing on like the wrong things, even if, like something comes in, we get a request from a customer to fix this thing on the site, and it's a very reasonable feedback, right? Maybe something designed that I completely agree with. But then it's like, oh, do we fix that now? Does that impact enough customers? And there's like a million things like kind of on the back burner that it feels bad, because it's like it grows, and I know that it should be fixed, and I know it should be this way. But like being ruthlessly efficient with how you prioritize, like, okay, fine, we'll get this done, but we need to do X, Y, and Z first.
Yeah, you're better than me. Soon somebody with a customer would say
it's really tough, especially on the customer end.
Right?
When they give a good piece of feedback, you almost want to just like drop everything and fix it right that moment.
Totally. I totally get that. I mean, I don't know. I would assume they was, sorry, I'm working on changing the code now order. But man, I know we're coming up, man. It's actually 1:59, man. I just want to say thank you again, Andrew. Like, it's a pleasure learning from you. I wish you and the entire company best of luck. I think this is a great mission. I hope more restaurants join on, and can't wait to see you guys grow and explode to what the vision is. So I thank you again, brother, for taking the time, and it's been a pleasure.
Perfect. Really appreciate it. Thanks again for having me on.
Of course. And everybody, thank you again, guys. This is episode 27. We couldn't do it without the support and all the comments, the feedback, all that good stuff on social media. We really appreciate you guys. And we'll see you back next week for episode 28. But thank you again, guys. And see you again, Andy. Let's definitely keep in touch, brother.
Sounds good.
All right. Take care.